has changed much about what I do in appraisal. It has changed much about what I do in my coaching business. It has changed much of what I do in my short-term rental business.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
Welcome back to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out once again. I want to talk a little bit about change today. Change is an interesting subject because it doesn't matter how often I talk about that change is an opportunity, which is what we're going to be reminded of today. It's still hard, and it's hard for me too, right? I'm a human being, and change is difficult, but here's the key. It does bring opportunity. I'll tell you another thing that brings opportunity is technology, and specifically, we are sponsored today by Synapse. Folks, if you are not supporting your adjustments, I'm telling you, with all the change that's coming in the world, you need to be. We talked about this last week with Mr. Tim Anderson. Change, folks, and modernization and everything else that's going on, you need Synapse to help you support your adjustments. Find out more by going to spark4appraisers.com. Again, it's spark4appraisers.com. All right, folks, change. Why is it difficult? Well, I think scientifically it's pretty easy to figure out. We as human beings like our bubbles, right? We refer to them as bubbles because they, quote unquote, protect us. They surround us. They keep us comfortable. We hate poking the box. We hate getting outside the normalcy that becomes our day-to-day. And why? Well, I think evolutionarily, it makes sense. You go back to caveman days, and change meant danger. Change meant a new forest. Change meant a new horizon, a place you were unfamiliar with. Therefore, you're unfamiliar with neighboring tribes, or you're unfamiliar with animals that may not be something that you're used to. Right? Any change in your life is going to biologically bring up an aversion. Biologically, your body is going to go, wait a second. I was already used to this. This is normal to me. I know what to count on when I wake up. I know what to count on when noon comes. I know what to count on when the evening comes. I don't like change. Again, none of this is new, folks, but there is a bunch of change that is going on in the world of appraisal right now. And I know it's something that you've heard many, many times, right? And hearing it from Dustin Harris is not changing anything as far as the results. This much I will say, though: the changes that have occurred and are occurring in the appraisal world, I do not think I am exaggerating when I say I've never seen change quite like this. I've never seen change the way that I see change now. I've never seen the revolutions occurring, the velocity increasing like I have currently. The modernization era, the Fannie Mae announcements. Recently they said that it will not be normal in the future for an appraisal to be done on every loan. We are already starting to see that change. We are seeing a lot of property inspectors, some people screaming, well, how does that increase or decrease, rather, the turn time? Well, because not all property inspections are going to lead to appraisals. That's how. Do I like that? Of course not, folks. I'm an appraiser, right? I protect myself. I want to keep getting that money that I've been used to getting. And we're all in the same boat here, right? Now, but it's my job, I think, it's my job, one of my jobs, to say, you know what? Change may be inevitable, but the way that we handle the change doesn't have to be. The way that we handle the change and the way that we see things occurring and the opportunity that we can take advantage of because of change, folks, I'm telling you, there is a positive side of change that I want to explore a little bit more after the break. But first, I want to pause and remind you that we're sponsored by Synapse. Synapse was a change for me, folks. When I started using it, I'll be honest with you, it was a little bit of a challenge. Now, it's easy to learn, but it's different than I've done in the past. And part of me was like, I just kind of like doing it my old way. The problem with my old way, folks, is there wasn't a whole lot of support for adjustments before Synapse. I'll be honest with you. Synapse has made it much easier. Go to spark4appraisers.com. There are several videos on there that will tell you a little bit about Synapse and what it does. But let me just boil it down to this, folks. If you don't have support for why you use $75 a square foot in that last appraisal, you need Synapse and so many other reasons. Check them out by going to spark4appraisers.com. Again, it's spark4appraisers.com. Welcome back to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out in the podcast chair. If you've not yet joined us on YouTube, I highly recommend that you do that. Our YouTube channel is The Appraiser Coach. You just have to go to YouTube, type in The Appraiser Coach, and hit subscribe. And reminders and everything else. Like this video if you do like it. It really does help us to get the word out. Speaking of the word out, folks, there's a lot of words coming from our GSEs, a lot of words coming from the powers that be with regard to appraisals. And not all of it is good news for appraisers, right? Now, I'm a pretty easygoing guy, right? When I see everybody blow up on the social media about, oh my gosh, everything's changing, the world is changing, it's all horrible. The honest truth is I feel a little bit of that, but I also tend to lean toward the glass half full. Now, I'm a realist, right? And realism says, you know what? It may be different. And I would even go so far as to say more difficult in the future to make to make a living as a real estate appraiser. I don't know. I do know this, that my life has proven that change is, number one, inevitable, and number two, change is opportunity. I think that's what I will label this mini-sode. I did not have a label when I turned the microphone on, but I think I've got it now. Change is opportunity. What do I mean by that? Well, folks, let's put it this way. With change comes choices that you did not have in the past. Let me give you an example. In the latter part of November, first part of December last year, I first heard about this thing called ChatGPT. It was a text that my son sent to me with a link, and he said, you ought to check this out. That's all it was. Check this out. I clicked on it and I'm looking at it. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, this is stupid. Like this, what is this dumb thing? Who invented this? Number one, he gave no context at all, right? As I started to dive into it a little bit more and basically ask him questions, what am I looking at? Oh, well, it's this new AI thing. I'm like, okay. And he goes, just ask it a question. And I did, and it gave me an answer. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, no, just play with it a little bit. This could completely change the appraisal world, the coaching world, the short-term rental world, the family world, every world that you belong to, Dad. This could change it. I'm like, okay. All right, that's not dramatic at all. But folks, as I dove into it and I got used to the AI format and what it brings to the table, part of me, I have to admit, was a little bit, do I dare say, fearful of the future. And I'm starting to say, holy smokes, this really could change the world in a dramatic way. I still feel that way. I still feel like it can change the world in a dramatic way, but I also feel that that dramatic way can be positive. Here's the upside. Since December, I have spent hours upon hours upon hours in ChatGPT. In fact, I upgraded to ChatGPT 4 recently, and I've been playing with that and blown away at the difference between 3, 3.5, and 4. Number one, but number two, just blown away at the number of things that I can do with ChatGPT that I guess I just didn't know about. I guess I didn't realize when I first saw this opportunity. Now, folks, I will tell you this, ChatGPT has changed much about what I do in appraisal. It has changed much about what I do in my coaching business. It has changed much of what I do in my short-term rental business. I'll give you one example from the short-term rental business. Just this morning, I have a short-term rental in Hawaii condo. And somebody reached out to me, a guest that's going to be staying there this week. And she asked me, she said, what's the best place to go for the weather and the surf, the current surf, the tides, right? I have no freaking clue. Now, as a host, I'm not going to answer back. I have no freaking clue. Now, I could have Googled it, certainly, but it's going to take some deciphering and looking through, and determining what I think is best. Or I could use AI. I chose to use AI. I jumped in and I actually just copied and pasted her question. I copied and pasted her question into ChatGPT, which was what were the best sites in Kauai to get the weather and the surf. And it came back with a perfect answer. The only thing I added to the answer was good question. And then I copied and pasted and sent it to her, right? And it was professionally written. It was well thought out. It was the perfect answer. Now, that may seem like a small thing, but I'm telling you folks, the world is changing when it comes to AI and your ability to synthesize great deals of information in a very short period of time. I mentioned Tim Anderson. He mentioned a term after we were done recording our podcast. He asked me about a term that I'd never heard of, and I admitted that. I said, I don't know what that is. And he goes, Dustin, as a coach of appraisers, you need to know that term. You need to know what it means. And I said, okay, assignment taken. I'm writing it down. I've got my homework. And I immediately, as soon as we were off the air, I immediately jumped on ChatGPT and I typed it in. I said, what is this? And it gave me a very synthesized idea of this term. And I'm learning, I'm growing. And it doesn't just stop there. I take a part of what ChatGPT does and I say, well, explain further, or what about this aspect, or how's that going to affect me, right? Again, I'm using one example. This is not a podcast on ChatGPT. This is a podcast on change. And this is a podcast on opportunity. My point in using ChatGPT is take something that could be scary on the offset. And I've seen a lot of people say, oh my gosh, you'd be leery of that. It's going to take over the world. And it may, right? I'm not saying it won't, but I am saying that reality is it exists. And it is also an opportunity for growth, for change, for success into the future. Folks, with the changes coming, the different changes that feel scary to appraisers right now, my question for you today is, how can you make that change an opportunity for you? How can you make that change an opportunity for you, for your business, for your clients, for those that you provide value to? Thank you for providing value for me, for being here, for listening, for being a part of our YouTube channel. And upward and onward, folks. I do appreciate each and every one of you, and go out there and create some value.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.